Hi everyone, it's Kajora Lovely. With the holidays quickly approaching, we have Thanksgiving coming really soon. I'm offering a reading right now that can help you guys prepare for what's coming up this holiday season, specifically starting with Thanksgiving. And the details for that are in the description box below. Right now, I'm going to do a general collective reading for what's basically to come or what we can expect this Thanksgiving. What's the energy in the air, so to speak. So, and keep in mind this is general. Also, if you're not familiar with my style, I do swear, and sometimes I burp. It just means I'm channeling. Okay, and also if you guys are curious about the energy overall for November, you can check out my videos for every single sign for the month of November. Okay, so let's get started with your general reading for Thanksgiving 2018. And for those of you that are curious, I am reading with the Wild Unknown deck. It's interesting because a lot of the cards that came up in the monthly general readings are in here. So, something that could be influencing everyone right now is judgment. So judgment is usually about an awakening of some sort, often a spiritual type of awakening, but it can also be a realization. So it could be that going into your family dynamic, going into your life, however this applies to you, there's something that it might have come to light. It has been exposed that you can see more clearly. And it might even be that you're starting to see, you're seeing a situation more clearly. With this card, it feels like you're starting to see things from a position of strength. It's almost like you're choosing to see, not even so much see the light, but see the truth. It feels like you've decided to see things from a truthful perspective, and because of that, you feel stronger. Mainly because you feel like you're seeing things as they really are. Okay. Where you are now, this card has been coming up a lot lately, in reverse. So the moon is usually about introspection, sometimes existential crisis, going within. When it's in reverse, I feel like it can be a little bit more fraught. It can be a little bit more difficult. With this one, I'm getting maybe some of you are doing some shadow work, which could be where the truth part is coming from. You're starting to see things as they really are. And so because of that, you're doing some work on yourselves. You're kind of going within. And it makes sense because this is that time of year. With winter, especially in the northern hemisphere, I should say in the northern hemisphere, it's the southern hemisphere, it's going into summer. This is a time of year for looking within and seeing what you want to change, maybe doing shadow work. It's about introspection. It's about figuring out, what is it then in your life that's not working for you? What do you want to keep? What do you want to let go of? All that stuff. And I also feel like for some of you, your minds might be really busy and full of a lot of thought. You didn't get the Knight of Swords anywhere, which is usually about anxiety, so that's good. So it feels like whatever is crossing your mind, it's almost like you want it to be productive, but it is productive. It's not just, run-of-the-mill anxiety. It's, an existential crisis. A little slightly easier. Just a little bit. So, with this card, what keeps coming to mind is Forest of Night. So it almost feels like you guys are going into your own personal forest at nighttime or something. You're doing a lot of deep introspective work. That's where you're at. And it could also have something to do with a decision, because this is something that's influencing you right now with the Two of Swords. So the Two of Swords is usually about sometimes feeling that you're at a crossroads or having to make a decision about something. It could be a realization. So it could also be, sometimes it can represent stalemate. So this can also mean you're kind of deadlocked between two decisions and you're not really sure which one to take. You're not sure which way to go. And one of the things that could be influencing you right now is the Page of Cups in reverse. In this deck, it's the Daughter of Cups, but it's the Page of Cups. And usually the Page of Cups is about good news coming. So it could feel, and this is something that's been coming up a lot lately, is that it's usually good news is coming. So when it's in reverse, the good news isn't coming. And you're kind of like, what the fuck? And so I feel like everyone's feeling slightly frustrated, like, hey, this has been a really rough year. Can we maybe get the show on the road? And I feel like this is the energy a lot of people have, because the word that's come up in so many of my readings has been stagnant. And so if you've been feeling frustrated and you're doing that introspection, you feel like you're at a deadlock. It makes sense. You feel kind of stagnant, and it's making you kind of frustrated. So for some of you, I feel like you're focusing on work. And this could also be an influence right now too. Some of you might be wanting to use this as an excuse to maybe not celebrate Thanksgiving or come late or leave early or something like that. No judgment. None whatsoever. So, but this usually means that you're working, there's something that you're building, something that you're focusing on. It could also feel like sometimes you need to take a break, like a step back, and see what you've accomplished and see how far you've come. So for those of you who are taking Thanksgiving weekend off, like Thursday and Friday, maybe even part of Wednesday, if you can, I feel like only think about work when it's necessary. Only think about it when it's important. And, I'm sure people will ask you, how's work going? What's happening there? Whatever. You can talk about it if you want to, but I also feel like you can say, you know what? These are my days off. I don't really want to discuss it. Especially if for whatever reason what you do is somewhat controversial. And then you could say, I'm here to spend time with my family or loved ones or whoever you're with, and say, I don't really feel like talking about it. So it looks like another theme is this one, the Star in reverse. So some of you, I feel, are dealing with some depression. Maybe not necessarily seeing the light in the dark. That's usually how I see this card. It's about the stars shining in the night sky. And if it weren't for the darkness, you wouldn't know they were there. And so often with that, it feels like, I often use that as a metaphor for people in your life or situations. When things go a less than desirable way, or just totally awful, you'll see what the lights in the dark are, who comes and helps you, who stands out, who's there for you, who's there when you call them and they say, what do you need? I'm here for you. Or just does it, But it feels like some of you might be feeling some sadness. It could be some depression. Again, I feel like it relates to this time of year, that we just had daylight savings time. We had that shift. So, and, the days are getting shorter, nights are getting longer. It affects you, differently wherever you are, at least if you're in the Northern Hemisphere. And so it could also be kind of feeling low, feeling like things aren't necessarily going the way you want. And that could relate to any number of things. For some of you, it could be political. For some of you, it could be social or economic or personal. It could relate to any number of things. But it feels like there's some disappointment that's we're going to move on from. The Five of Cups is usually about focusing on the past, focusing on the things that didn't work, and not necessarily seeing what is there. It's about seeing where you've been hurt. For some of you, I'm hearing judged, criticized, maligned, and maybe you're focusing so much on the hurt that you're not seeing the positives in your life. So it's like you're literally not seeing the stars that are in the sky, the people that are there for you. So one thing I can say for those of you that this applies to, if you're not really sure how to get through that, here's my personal advice to you from my own personal experience. Make a gratitude list. Gratitude is incredibly powerful because it raises your vibration. It really does lift your mood. And when I first learned about making those, I would do it in moments. It took a while. I didn't always like doing it because you're in a moment where you're feeling like, fuck, I'm so mad. And then you start to make a gratitude list. And I always find being the most specific helps. At least it helps me. And saying, I'm glad I have a roof over my head. I'm glad I have food to eat. I'm glad I have these friends. I'm glad I have these family members. I'm glad I have this. I'm glad I have that. And that's why I say be specific, because the more specific you are, the more you'll realize that you have. And it does help, and I feel like it could even be what seems like the dumbest thing. It doesn't matter. It's what matters to you. What is it that you look forward to most in the morning? If it's a cup of coffee, then be grateful that you can have a cup of coffee as soon as you wake up. If it's your phone, then be grateful for your phone. It doesn't really matter what it is. And also, I just feel like what I'm hearing is it's not our job to sit in judgment of each other. It's really not. So the good news with that, these feelings of sadness, like things aren't working out the way you want, things aren't positive, there's forward movement. So there is momentum. And it feels like it's driving you toward releasing an ending. So I know this is kind of an intense card. The Ten of Swords is scary for a lot of people. And in this one, it's like an animal, so it's kind of rough. But it's about an ending. It's about a death. And sometimes, it's interesting because I wrote a blog post about this about a year ago. I feel like, and this card came up in a gratitude spread I did. And I think it's important to remember, what are you grateful is no longer in your life? What endings are you grateful for? Which people are out of your life? What things have you put an end to? I would say just in the last year since last Thanksgiving. And I think it's important to recognize what endings you aren't ready to let go of. Because it feels like there are some of you that are resisting some kind of ending. And so that could even be coming up this Thanksgiving season. It could be something that's on your mind. If it's something that's not related to the people that you'll be celebrating with, then I would say embrace the distraction. Let it occupy your brain space a little bit so that this can kind of sit in your subconscious, because your subconscious can solve problems if you let it. I had a professor who once told me that Einstein, when he couldn't solve a problem, would basically shut the problem out of his mind and play his violin for 14 hours straight, as only Einstein could, I guess. And then the problem would be solved. So I feel like sometimes it helps to not think about something for a little while, whatever it is. And because for some of you, I feel like this is a breakup. It's a breakup that you weren't ready to let go of. And I think sometimes you got to be honest about what's not good for you, because the other thing influencing you right now is the Six of Swords. Six of Swords, which by the way is like the least scary swords card, because most people get freaked out by them. This means leaving something bad behind for something better. So when it comes to whatever this is that you feel like you're not entirely ready to let go of, the question is, what did it serve you? How did it serve you? And how is it no longer serving you? And I feel like it's important to be brutally, brutally, brutally honest with yourself. And to recognize, whether or not someone was good for you, whether or not they actually made you feel good about yourself, if they brought things to your life. Obviously, it doesn't apply if, you found the love of your life and they were absolutely spectacular and amazing and they just died. And if that happened, I'm sorry. But other times, if it's someone who wasn't treating you well or talked badly about you, didn't see your full worth, didn't recognize all that you were capable of, whether that's a work situation, a family situation, a relationship, if they don't see how great you are, they're not meant for you. And what is meant for you will find you. Just keep that in mind. It's not always fun being alone, but sometimes you need those periods to figure out, I feel like for some of you, figure out your own self-worth. Which makes sense because another thing influencing you right now is the Five of Pentacles in reverse. So this card is often about sometimes missed opportunities, but it's usually about a mindset of poverty or a mindset of lack. And so in reverse, it feels like you guys are moving out of that. And so If you've been feeling like you've been in competition with other people or no one is recognizing your worth or your ability, I feel like that's changing. And so that really comes from an inner sense of knowing as well. Knowing what you are really capable of, knowing what you can do, knowing how amazing and awesome you are, how whatever situation you're in, whether you're hanging out with your friends or your family, with a loved one, or with in a business sense, what is it that you bring to the table, and knowing that and owning it. And similar to a gratitude list, I feel like some of you, it might help to make a list of those things and say 15 reasons why I'm awesome. Number 1, I have great taste in movies, because let's be honest, you would agree with you about your taste in movies. You know, start with wherever you are. And I feel like it's important to really see, recognize yourself. I feel like self-love is the key to anything. And I feel that that will help a lot of you. So you've also got the High Priestess here. This card does not show up all the time, but she's been showing up a lot lately. So the High Priestess is about our mystical, spiritual side. She is about the feminine, intuitive, empathic side. And it's a side that's in all of us. It's not just in females. It's present in everyone. It's just something that we've been taught to ignore. And so with this card, I feel like some of you might be dabbling and experimenting with your intuition. Some of you are intuitively trying to feel into a situation. Maybe some of you feel like you're on a spiritual journey. Let's see why this is coming up for some of you. Maybe you're not feeling victorious when it comes to your intuition, into your intuitive and empathic abilities. So the Ace of Swords, okay. The Ace of Swords can also be about exploring a spiritual path or an intellectual path. Personally, I'm like, why would you want to choose? Why can't you do both? So with this, it could be that you have some concerns, some fears, some hopes, some desires, some dreams when it comes to pursuing your own mystical, spiritual, intuitive abilities, or even empathy. Maybe these are facets of your personality and your abilities that you've turned off for some time. And maybe you're kind of scared of where they could lead you, of what they could mean. So let's see if they have any general advice for that. Well, if you've been feeling like you're at a low, the worst will soon be over. With the Wheel of Fortune in reverse, it often means you're at the lowest point now, so things will be moving forward. Which kind of makes sense, because I do feel that we have a general awakening that's happening where people are getting more and more in touch with their intuitive and empathic abilities. I mean, there's a reason why tarot readers are on YouTube. We've always existed, but there's a reason why you're watching this video right now, So it feels like, for many of you, it could be getting over past feelings of prosecution. So this is a very loaded issue, because if you believe in reincarnation, this can relate to your feelings that you were killed as a witch in a previous life, that you were tortured, burned at the stake, raped, murdered, whatever, for using your abilities. And I think it's something that a lot of people are working through right now. I know I've had to do it. It's about figuring out, how can you live in this world and explore this other part of yourself that you've always known is there, right? And I think it's important too to keep in mind, just because you explore this stuff doesn't mean you have to put yourself in a box. You don't have to say, well, I'm this now. You can just be you. And you can apply it however you want. If you want to work in a corporate office and use your intuition, do it. There's no disadvantage to that whatsoever, because you'll be able to use it to figure out what someone's attitude will be to a presentation you're going to make. You'll be able to anticipate questions. You'll be able to think into the future and think, okay, how is this going to go over if I ask for a raise or if I pitch a new idea? What is my boss going to say? What are my peers going to say? what is happening. Why do I feel like people are judging me or looking at me? You can always feel into what's going on. So, I think it's also important to keep in mind that you can explore your intuition, you can explore your mystical and spiritual side, and still do whatever the hell you want with your life, boo-boo. You don't have to lock yourself into a box. I feel like it's just a matter of making a decision. So, the Two of Wands in some ways is very similar to the Two of Swords, which is related back to our existential crisis. So, I'm guessing these things are interrelated. Now, when it comes to Thanksgiving, and especially for those of you that are seeing people who may not be necessarily open-minded about it, you don't necessarily have to tell them. This stuff is really personal. You don't have to tell them every single thing that's going on in your head. There may be some of you, I feel like you might have an aunt or something that you want to talk to. I feel like if you do have that conversation in private, this is their recommendation, which is funny because it's also Sagittarius energy, which we generally kind of revel in during Thanksgiving anyway, with the very gluttonous aspect of Thanksgiving. So Temperance is about balance. That's why you have the blue heron and the fire. This is really about balancing your emotions, your feelings. I feel like it's a way of saying you have every right to feel your feelings. You can do that. And you can do two things at once. You can feel, and you can also maybe not share that with everyone if you don't feel comfortable. You don't have to suppress them. You don't have to actively hide them if you don't feel comfortable, but you also don't necessarily have to let everyone know. I feel like it's also really being true to yourself, finding balance, and maybe for some of you, just enjoying the gluttonous aspect of Thanksgiving with your family. So if someone asks you how you're doing, be like, oh, great, is that pumpkin pie? That kind of thing. Change the subject if you want. Bring up something else that someone can't shut up about. That's always a great thing. Ask them about themselves if you don't feel comfortable talking about you. Okay. But overall, it looks like you're about to start something new with the Fool here. This is really you're about to embark. You can see the little chick with his foot off the branch. You're about to embark on a new venture or adventure. You're about to do something new. So it could also be having a new perspective when it comes to certain things. And maybe even for some of you, a new perspective on yourself. And it's interesting because the thing I keep getting is, it's about your relationship with yourself. And I think seeing yourself in a strong position. Because other than the Page of Cups, this is the first court card to come up. So I feel like for most of you, because court cards in tarot often can mean other people. The King of Pentacles often refers to an earth sign, possibly male, but not necessarily. It's someone who's worked up to a position, because pentacles are the earth element, so they're money and home and finances. Sorry, money and finances is the same thing. So this can also be somebody in your life who is very successful, or it could also represent someone that you'll be working with. It could also represent you, what you're working toward, and where you'll, find yourself, and maybe moving past prior conflicts. Or it could even be, let's see, the Mother of Pentacles. So there's a lot of strong earth energy here, which is very interesting. So that could be people coming to a head, potentially the heads of the household, wherever you're at. But I feel like some of you, it'll be settling into yourself. It'll be finding something that you want to work toward, that you can really build something on, that can potentially outlive you, but that you feel gives you a sense of, hate to say sense of worth, but something that gives you, it's like it's worth fighting for, it's worth building on, it's worth building toward. So whatever this is, whether this is having a family or starting a business or deciding to recommit to your career, it's something that you decide you really want to work toward. Okay. So with all that, I'm going to ask them, spirits, or divine spirits above, if there is something else that you guys should keep in mind this Thanksgiving season. Rest. Ooh. Okay. Okay. So we've got 4 swords. Sometimes this can mean strength under pressure, especially in this deck. That's sort of what it looks like. It can also mean resting, taking a break, knowing when to retreat, recuperate, relax, do all those things that you need to do to take care of yourself. So, self-care. I feel like also they're saying with the Nine of Wands in reverse, I read this as not being defensive. I feel like you don't have to put up a wall. I feel like it's saying don't put up a wall. Someone's not trying to stab you in the back. Usually, so this is building a barrier because you've been attacked so many times, which can happen a lot with family. Usually this card can mean someone who's being sneaky, deceitful, deceptive, dishonest. All those dis words. So I feel in reverse, this means that they're not trying to do something. I feel like there's somebody that in the past has kind of screwed you over, maybe been the family fuck up. Like they've been someone who is kind of the ne'er-do-well, and I feel like they're at least trying to be on the straight and narrow. They're doing their best or their damnedest in some cases. It really depends. But it feels like some of you may have some feelings of emotional dissatisfaction to get over, because we've got the 9, well, this is about getting over anxiety with the 9 of Swords in reverse. I know, another intense card. But then you've got the 6 of Cups and the Ace of Cups in reverse. So, 6 of Cups is usually about, well, this is about your roots, right? So this is about returning home. Very fitting. Sometimes tapping into your inner child, being around children. So it can also be feeling youthful, feeling happy. Sometimes, this one's come up recently, and often I see it as embracing your inner child in the sense of doing things that make you want to run around giggling like you're 5 years old again. You know, there's really no reason why adults should ever stop doing that. I could see why teenagers, because they just want to look cool, but as adults, after a while, we kind of don't care. So, you know, if you want to do that, if you're around your kids, your nieces or nephews, your grandchildren, whoever the children or the youngins are in your life, if you want to run around giggling with them, why not? Adults don't laugh nearly enough, you know? So if you have an opportunity to do it, fucking go for it. Like, why not? Okay. Ace of Cups in reverse. Some of you are feeling some emotional dissatisfaction, which is why I say even more. Laugh. Raise your vibration. Get over these feelings of anxiety. Get over this emotional disappointment. Sometimes this can be depression. You know, so the things that raise your vibration, that make you feel better, lighter, whether or not you want to use the word vibration, laughter, love, gratitude. That's it. So, you know, if you're feeling really sad or mopey, or I don't know why whiny came to mind, but if you're feeling, you know, down in the dumps, put on a funny movie. Watch something you know that you'll like. Watch a TV show that you've seen that you know is funny. Watch The Good Place. I don't know why it's coming up. Okay, it feels like these things will help. And so I think it's also, if you've been feeling in a funk, if you're not really ready to go see people, have to try and like work up your feelings to like be happy and like make conversation and smile and stuff like that, be goofy. Listen to a funny podcast while you're driving or on the plane. You know, download some stuff that's funny. Watch, you guys are going to know everyone who I find funny. Watch Eliza Schlesinger. Watch a comedian you like. You know, watch someone that you think is hilarious. Or listen to something that you know will make you laugh. I feel like it's important for some of you to go into this laughing. You know, why not? Okay. So then we've got the Daughter of Wands, which is the Page of Wands. So this usually means, the pages can often mean good news is coming, and this relates to fire energy, so action, communication. I feel like good things are coming. So for those of you who are creative types, this can be a really good indicator that something is coming, or just in the sense of action or good news that are coming your way. And it looks like you guys are building a strong foundation. So with the Four of Wands, I always feel like this is another one. So this is just the theme. I know it's Thanksgiving and it's all about gratitude, but this is really about gratitude. So this card I often see as being grateful for the things that you have in your life, again, and really appreciating them. And the little things. I mean, I already went into that earlier, so I don't have to beat you over the head with it. But I feel like, especially if you feel like opportunities that you want aren't coming, if you feel like your ambition is kind of experiencing a lull, finances are not exactly where you want them to be, yeah, you're moving into a better space. You know, the Chariot is still moving forward. So there is forward momentum. Unfortunately, it's not going to happen overnight, but it is coming. So this is also the Queen of Wands. So that fire energy, action, communication. And I feel with this, because of the artwork in this card, it's also a theme of protecting what's yours, protecting what's important to you. So I think it could be another way to look at gratitude, and what to be grateful for in your life is, what would you fight tooth and nail to protect? What would you give a limb for? What would you give life and limb for? You know, what is it that is worth sacrificing? Because usually anything you love that much is something to be grateful for. Even if you're not grateful for it 100% of the time, you're still, I would say you're still most of the time glad that it's in your life. And it feels a lot like mother energy for you guys. Okay. Yeah. And it looks like for some of you that may be a source of heartache, things that have been difficult. So what I'm getting is that same theme of being grateful for the things that may not have been easy, but seeing what they taught you, or seeing how they helped you grow, how they made you change, how they made you blossom. And it could be that you guys are in that period right now of changing, growing, blossoming, moving into that space where you will feel like a queen, where you'll feel like you're really moving to where the space where you want to be. You know, in a way it's hard, because it's hard to look at the things that have happened that you haven't really been excited to have happen, that have been terrible or awful or horrible, and to say, oh, gee, I'm so glad that changed my life. But it really feels like that's the lesson here, is to look at every good thing and every hard thing as a blessing that has helped you move forward, that has helped shape who you are. And it feels like this kind of relates to where we are energetically right now, you know, with the energy shifting and everything and awareness coming. I feel like it's important to recognize what good and bad has happened in your life to help shape you and make you you. Because life isn't always going to be easy. And sometimes you have to look at the hard stuff to say, fuck, I survived that. I came out of that alive. So anyway, I hope all of this was helpful to you guys. And if you are interested in a personal reading for Thanksgiving to kind of give you a sense of what's to come, I am offering that right now, and the details for that are below. I hope you guys have a wonderful holiday, and I'll see you next month.